Hello, everyone, and welcome to an AskARoofer Minisode. I'm your host, Megan Ellsworth, here at the coffee shops and AskARoofer.com. I'm here with my friend John Kenney, and we're answering your questions, homeowners' questions that get sent in to AskARoofer. And we had a really good question today all about what secure roof seams mean. But before we get into that, John, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me back, Megan. My name is John Kenney. I'm CEO of Cotney Consulting Group. I'm a roof consultant that works within the industry with roofing contractors, manufacturers, and other industry questions and issues as we're going through here. Where I get my experience from is I was spent 45 years as a roofing contractor, so I have a lot of hands-on knowledge of a lot of the questions that come in, and we do get some really good questions, and this next one looks like it's going to be one as well.
Yeah, we do. We do get a lot of great questions, and I'm excited for this one because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot about it as well. So, how important is seam bleed out on a torch applied modified bitumen roof?
Insufficient bleed out on a modified bituminum seams is definitely something to take very seriously because the bleed out is visual confirmation that the seam has reached proper fusion or adhesion during
Mhm.
a torch application. So without it, seams absolutely can become very vulnerable to water infiltration over time. So that being so that's something you wanna take extremely serious when you're looking at it because that could always lead to a improper, um, question on that, and I think you
Yeah.
probably got the next question that this next area we'll jump into.
Yes. So, what problems can occur if seam bleed out is missing or insufficient then?
They asked, I'll kinda jump in here, I know they asked a little bit about the coding as well, so before we
Yes.
get into that, which will be the next one, the first step you wanna look at is determining whether the seams are actually failing or they simply have a minimal visible bleed out from, conservative torching. So there's no rule of thumb. They have to show the bleed out, but if they're too much bleed out, that doesn't mean it's bad. And if it's just enough to meet the manufacturer's requirement, that also doesn't mean it's bad. So qualified contractors has to probe and test the laps to verify that they're actually bonded. So visual alone is not there. So the repair
Okay.
approach will also depend upon, because we don't know this from the question, whether the cap sheet is smooth surface or granule surface.
Okay.
So if it's smooth surface, the deficient seams can often be successfully reheat welded or reinforced using a compatible modified bituminum repair strips or cap sheet
Okay.
strips themselves. So a manufacturer has ways of repairing those if need be. The other one is if it's granule surface cap sheets, you have to actually granules must be first bedded, removed, or properly prepared in the repair area. So you just can't go over a granulated roof without actually getting down to the bituminum themselves. That's a big
Okay.
mistake that I find made out there a lot. So
Okay.
once that's done, then the repair material can achieve again the proper adhesion and water tightness.
Okay. So, what is the best repair option? Seam reinforcement, silicone coating system? If someone's out there seeing that they have a problem with their roof and they're worried about the seams.
Sure. So, in most cases, what I prefer is pairing the suspect seams with the compatible modified themselves, right? The materials,
Okay, yeah.
rather than relying on a polyester fabric or coatings alone. So, I like to make sure
Okay.
that seam is sealed. Reinforced liquid applied systems can work in certain restoration situations, but they should not be used as a substitute for correcting poor seam attachment. Because if you have poor seam attachment, you're going to have
Okay.
an opportunity for thermal movement, which can actually create a problem, even though you've stripped over them with a coating or whatever. So I also want to immediately recommend. I also don't recommend immediately going with a full silicone coating system as they asked the question, unless the entire roof is being evaluated as a restoration project, because there's really not a need for that if it's just a couple repairs to get it back up to speed. So coatings should enhance a sound roof assembly not compensate for weak seams. So you just don't want to
Yeah.
coat over it and not take care of what the seam problem is. So I would say bottom line to wrap this up for the homeowner's question is verify whether the seams are truly unbounded or simply lack visible bleed out. That's a big question. Repair deficient seams with compatible modified bitumen materials that the manufacturer would recommend. And then your granule surface caps require proper surface preparation before repairs. This is key. I've seen a lot of roofing contractors out there that don't do this correctly, so it could be a problem. And
Mm,
then simply, please don't rely on coatings alone to solve seam attachment issues because they could still come down the road later to come back at you. Have the roof evaluated by a qualified, modified installing contractor or manufacturer's representative before going to that full restoration system option. And I think that inspection is going to tell you whether you're dealing with isolated seam deficiencies or a larger roof, re-roof restoration situation.
yeah, absolutely. Well said, John. Thank you for answering that question. And it's always fun to get, kind of flat roof, commercial roof questions. So thanks to our home or building owner, whoever asked that, for sending that in. And again, John, thank you for your expertise.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Yay. All right, everyone. This has been an Ask a Roofer minisode, and we'll see you on the next one. If your roof needs answers, subscribe now to the Ask a Roofer podcast. We've got your questions covered, one episode at a time. Go to AskARoofer.com to submit your questions and learn more. Stay tuned and keep those questions coming.